Bella Ramsey, the star of The Last of Us, is doing press for their new season right now, and instead of talking about the show, she is talking about her gender identity and the fact that she was recently diagnosed with autism. So it's just really taking center stage in what people are paying attention to here, not anything about the freaking show itself. It's just about Bella Ramsey. And, you know, it's funny. They act like this stuff just comes up in an interview out of nowhere, like it's totally random and not a publicist-fed question. But it's very clear once you actually read it. It's from this new interview that Bella Ramsey did with British Vogue, in which they are referring to her with they-them pronouns. I am not going to be doing that because I'm not going to do the mental gymnastics that it takes to comply. But
it's also ruined those moments in movies where they pronoun bait.
Like, not with neo-pronouns, but...
Like in the movie, they're like, have you seen her?
Yeah, it's usually using them like they did in Fallout.
Yes.
Like, there was a character in Fallout that just happened to be referred to that way with no context.
Well, it's in the movies back in the day, what would happen is, like, if you imagine the villain was going to be a bad guy, then somebody says, you have to stop her. And they're like, what?
What do you mean?
As if everybody didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Ruined it.
On the subject of routines, Bella Ramsey is a big fan. Quote, I've spoken a bit about neurodivergence before, but I always, for some reason, didn't want to... ... I felt like I didn't want to say what it was. I got diagnosed with autism while I was filming season 1 of The Last of Us. The craziest part here is that it was because someone working on the set clocked her.
Had a daughter or a son,
Yes.
had a child that was autistic, and then they said, hey, have you ever been tested?
While shooting in Canada, a crew member with an autistic daughter assumed that Bella Ramsey had it too, setting them off on a journey that ended in a formal psychiatric assessment and diagnosis. It confirmed something that Ramsey had always wondered about. As a child, they had routinely felt out of place in school, a self-described weirdo and loner, more comfortable around adults than their unpredictable adolescent peers. There were other hints, too. Sensory issues common to people on the autism spectrum, and their painful hyper-awareness of other people's micro-expressions and body language. They aren't a fan of the heavy waterproofs and thermals that come with filming in the cold Canadian wilderness. Too much stuff on my body, explained Bella Ramsey, fidgeting as if remembering it now in person. Wow, so you feel uncomfortable when you're wearing raincoats. I guess that means you're autistic. Their autism, they point out, actually improves their craft. So this is, I guess, helpful when you're an actor. I've always been watching and learning from people. Having to learn more manually how to socialize and interact with the people around me has helped me with acting. Being on set, too, offers a routine. I have a call time, and I'm told what to wear, how to stand, where to stand, and what to eat. They describe this diagnosis as freeing. It enables me to walk through the world with more grace towards myself about not being able to do the easy, everyday tasks that everyone else seems to be able to do. So, Bella Ramsey is saying she feels freed and liberated and maybe even empowered and proud of the fact that she is diagnosed with autism. Rather than impaired.
I'll get the House reference out of the way now. They do an episode on autism where House connects with a severely autistic patient, and they kind of spend the episode, all of the other characters spend the episode kind of wondering if House is himself somebody who has Asperger's, and they kind of make the point that he would like it because it would absolve him of the need to observe social niceties. And that's a discussion that they have, and then they say, House doesn't have autism. House is a jerk. And that's kind of where that discussion went in 2004 or 5 or whenever they were having that episode. So I found the part about being a loner to be really interesting because, look, back in the day, the lifetime ago that was like the 80s and the 90s or even the early 2000s, the character of the loner was a trope.
Yeah.
And it was a real person who was not a medical diagnosis, who just happened to have a disdain for other people or was misunderstood because he fell outside of the social norms, but it wasn't medicalized in the way it was now. Now what they would do in movies is they would say that it's coded, that it's Asperger's coded, that it's autistically coded, which kind of boxes them into a really, really annoying way, in a really annoying way, because if you call it coded, then you have to start observing some type of decorum around the condition and what you have to say about the condition, rather than using a person's unique behavior as a jumping off point for storytelling.
You know, I think that it's really sad to hear a young person talk about themselves like this. Like they've just put themselves in a box they'll belong to for life. Like she's only, 21 years old? And she already has pathologized herself this way in multiple ways. She fits the psychological profile of someone who falls into gender ideology at a very young age, when you're a young, insecure girl who is not conventionally attractive, doesn't have an easy time socially. Thank you.
I guess
you hear all of these markers time and time again, and those are the predictors for like young women who end up identifying as trans or identifying as non-binary, is they have these same comorbidities, including autism. So it's no wonder why she came out as non-binary in 2023, is insisting on presenting in this strange gender non-conforming way, presenting with these pronouns, and making that a huge part of her identity publicly as well.
Apparently 15 to 35% of autistic individuals identify as LGBTQIA.
Yeah, do we think that's like a coincidence?
It's an overrepresentation. And the thing is there is not the same stigma around autism. The new stigma around autism is actually more that people think that it's overdiagnosed and it's used as a synonym for quirky.
Yeah, it is.
And conservatives fall into this as well.
Yeah.
Where they say, look at me, I'm so random, bro. I'm autistic. Like X is half full of people.
Everyone's doing
talking about how they're autistic because they have some obsession with some obscure thing that they like to talk about. I watched
it's not even like, it's totally nonpartisan. Everyone is identifying with autism.
It's because human beings have an extreme desire to stand out, and they want to be unique in some way, and this is a way of getting like a medicalized banner that says I'm unique. I'm not like most humans. From the average everyday person. And in a world now where you're connected to more people than you ever were, like back in the day, it's kind of okay not to stand out in a town of however many thousands of people in your small friend group of who you hang out with. But now you go on the internet and you're surrounded by millions of people making interesting content, people who have interesting things to say. You go on X and there's people writing diatribes about really interesting ideas. Then you're like, how do I stand out? I know. This diagnosis. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah, I was just listening to an interview with Freya India on Chris Williamson's podcast, Modern Wisdom, and she was talking in the beginning of their interview about therapy culture and how it's really appealing to young women right now. They're finding, if it's not from going through therapy and taking psychiatric medications themselves, it's from the content they consume about it. And then we're all like kind of consuming the same therapy culture, even if we choose not to participate in it in a real way. You're going to hear the same terms like about attachment styles and, neuroticism and like.
And this is actually where women like shine on like Instagram skits with therapy culture skits. They're very good at it.
Yeah, and then this is a perfect place for all of these women to convene and ruminate and commiserate together, which is something we love to do. I love commiserating as a woman with other women about our problems and not trying to solve them. Like, it is really, like, we love doing that. But you do it online with millions of other people, and you just go down a toxic spiral.
Whenever Olivia is talking about a problem, I don't always hit the mark, but I try to ask the question, do you want a solution or do you just want to talk about this.
I have a hot take on that. I feel like you shouldn't ask that question.
No, I can usually tell in her tone when it's when it's a problem that needs to be solved, or when it's just.
Yeah, it's better to just have the intuition and not like ask.
I do my best, but usually it's just she wants to talk about something, and that's fine. Whereas maybe it's not all guys, but it's like, how was work? It was fine. How's your day? It was good. And I'll give more details if prompted, but I tend to. One of the things I have going for me is my brain is just so addled that it's just, I forget it as soon as it's over. It's like, Snow White was so this or that. I already forgot all of it. You also made a point in this, if we want to transfer to it a little bit, is about her talking about ethical billionaires.
Yeah. I read through her whole Vogue interview, and it was pretty bad. Just first off, they lead with this in the headline. Bella Ramsey opens up about their liberating autism diagnosis and new season of The Last of Us. Empathetic, climate conscious, vintage loving, meaning, low carbon footprint. Bella Ramsey has plenty in common with other 21-year-olds, aside from being the star of one of the biggest TV phenomenons of all time. So here is later down in the interview. She says, Bella Ramsey surprises me with the statement, quote, "You can't be an ethical billionaire. We're discussing the state of the world, which we both agree is not good." Bella Ramsey says, "I remember when I first heard that saying, I was like, surely you can be. But now I've thought about it. If you've acquired enough wealth to be a billionaire, you're not giving enough of it away." She cackles. I really don't understand how you can have so much power and not use it in a way that's beneficial to the development of the world. But I guess people like Elon Musk think they are developing the world, and they are in one way, but maybe to the detriment of literally everybody else around them.
So, again, this is not, I hate to feel like
there was also like Trump stuff in here. Like,
I guess space exploration, affordable electric cars, and a vast network of free transference of information isn't enough to be ethical. I would ask her, as the star of The Last of Us, which is owned by Warner Brothers, which is a large publicly traded company whose main top-level shareholders are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Where do they fall in the lines of ethical billionaires? Certainly those aren't, that's not as scary as an individual person that you can post a picture of and make some type of weird propaganda 9,000 word meme on, because none of them can meme. But where do those companies fall in line?
We have a
with
20
ethical billionaires.
real quick from Pop Culture Junkie. I've never heard the term therapy culture before. What in general is it? It just means that we live in a therapy culture because it's a culture that promotes therapy as a catch-all solution. It encourages people to pathologize normal behaviors or even just anomalous behaviors that aren't dysfunctional. And then it medicalizes spiritual issues or physical issues. It encourages psychoanalysis and rumination on one's problems and finding solutions inside yourself, rather than externalizing. That's basically it.
Yeah, if you notice that you have a friend or somebody that tends to call a lot of other people narcissists, they're probably deep in therapy culture.
It's all of that, and all the people who are actively in therapy, and then all of it reverberating through social media to the people who aren't necessarily even in therapy.
Yes. Look, for Bella Ramsey, she's going to get probably a good amount of work. She's fashionable. She's whatever. I don't think she's
whatever.
I don't think she's a terribly good actress, but again, I've only seen her in The Last of Us.
Honestly, so unsightly, it makes me uncomfortable to look at her. I don't like watching her in The Last of Us. I really just don't enjoy looking at a face like that. I don't mean it in like a cruel way. I really don't, but she's not attractive, and I don't want to spend prolonged periods of time looking at a face like that.
I think that she has the look of somebody who just not leading person Like, look, there's plenty of actors that are just not the typical leading man or leading woman looking person that have a strong presence in the industry because they get roles that kind of fall in line with having a unique on-camera presence. She could follow that direction, but again, most of the virtue signaling becomes very repetitive, and it's not a whole lot of fun to talk about, other than the fact that I find it funny that I heard also that 15 to 20% of autism is like self-diagnosed now. So who knows?
Really?
Yeah, a high percent.
Well, that just means nothing.
Yes. Well, I mean, think about what it's used. Like, it's not like people who self-diagnose ADHD, where it's like, well, then you're not getting the meds that you want, that you clearly want if you have ADHD, right? So if you're diagnosed with Asperger's, changes will be in diet, routine, and therapy. Whereas if you self-diagnose, it just gives you the ability to just talk about it and talk about how you're autistic.
I wanted to mention this other part where they're comparing the setting and circumstances of The Last of Us to how society is in real life.
They were doing this with The Handmaid's Tale again recently.
Yes, they're giving The Last of Us the Handmaid's Tale treatment, essentially. One could argue that someone like Bella Ramsey presents a new kind of hope on a planet that feels increasingly hostile towards queer people. Here is a non-binary person who, despite the rightward drift of politics, has millions in their thrall, including a devoted online following and an influence that comes with playing the lead in one of the biggest television hits in history. And they understand they have a voice too. And here's what she says. "It's the golden age of America," she says sarcastically, of Donald Trump's election. Like, really? It's terrifying, actually. How is he in power? So I guess they're trying to point out that it feels appropriate in a climate apocalypse of Trump's America that we're watching. An apocalyptic show. 1/3
of autism cases are self-diagnosed, but apparently with a 75 to 80% accuracy rate when they eventually do seek professional help.
She seems like a very troubled person. She has this non-binary identification as well. She also, now is like autistic too. And she's also like a crazy leftist. And she also said that she's like recovered from anorexia in the last 2 years or something.
How do you have time to work when you've got that much going on?
Yeah, it's just like a whole host of issues, clearly. And none of them should be known to the public, but she's telling everybody. And it's just so obvious how someone like this ends up finding all these different communities to belong to.
Well, that seems to be an ongoing, like with the rejection of family, the desire to find a community has become overwhelming for a lot of people.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.